Oh, good afternoon. If I sound out of breath, it's because I've just walked 2 miles up a steep old hill. Because today, on our walk, with me, the potty mouth pilgrim that is Wurs, and of course, the orange goblin that is Bo. Well, thanks for that, you vile creature. And today, we are going along to where these trees are. This is Chanctonbury Ring. And this is one of the most beautiful places with the best views in all of Sussex. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a misty old day, so those views are sadly missing. Chanctonbury Ring was originally an Iron Age fort built on the edge of the escarpment here in Sussex, on the edge of the South Downs, that is. As you go out that way, if it wasn't so misty in that direction, you'd be able to see as far as the North Downs on a clear day, but unfortunately this is not that day. Now you can see where I'm standing at the moment is what remains of the ditch that was dug around the outskirts of the fort, and then this mound here is the innards, and the ring inside is the actual fort. It was an egg-shaped fort, which was pretty much standard for the times. And as far as we know, it's definitely used for keeping animals in. It was definitely used as a hill fort for the military purposes of being able to watch out everywhere, because it couldn't be more perfectly sited for that purpose. Again, I'll try and show you the north views. You'll get to see a bit of it, but unfortunately it's so misty today you can't really see that far away. You know, you can see sort of about a good 5 miles, I suppose. But you can see, from being able to see this far away on a day like this, you can imagine how far they could see. You can see a good 60 miles out to the North Downs on a clear day. So we know that it was used as a fort. We also know that animals were kept here. I say that they also know that animals were kept here because they found animal bones that date back. This was all going back sort of about a good few hundred years before the Roman occupation. It was definitely a Celtic settlement, or not a settlement as such. There hasn't been any archaeological signs of habitation here. So as far as they know, the site was mainly used for ritual purposes, whatever that may be. Now maybe that was something to do with solstices, I don't know, sacrifice, human or otherwise, no idea. We do know that once the Romans came here, they built 2 temples on site in here as well, which are in the centre of the copse of trees. There's a segment in there where there's no trees in the middle of it, and that's the reason why. More of that in a minute. So we know that it was a watch point, shall we say. We know animals were kept here. We know it was used for ritual. And that is about it. We know that it was in use for about 500 years. And then they stopped using it here, and they went over to Chanctonbury Ring down to the south. More of Chanctonbury Ring another time, because we'll go there because it's an amazing looking place. Just carrying on following round here, try and show you just some of the views from out here. It really is one of the most spectacular places in Sussex to see. You get pretty much from various points around the ring, you get a full 360 panorama. It's just an absolutely stunning place to come and visit. This is the views to the south of here. It is just beautiful. So let's go in and have a look at where the temples were, or the shrines. I know, or I'm told, that one of the shrines was to Mithridates, or Mithridates, however it's pronounced. My pronunciation, as usual, are absolutely bloody bollical, so I apologise for that. Mithridates was, I believe, a warrior cult, but there's also some similarities with with him being a like an immaculate conception, as it were, and being born in a stable, and born around Christmas time as well. So I don't know if the Christians were doing the old Roman trick of just overlaying their gods over another gods in order to suit their ways. No idea. Anyhow, throughout the grounds here, if I come down, you'll see there's, amongst the stones, there's some red clay, more regular patterned stone. That's the old Roman tiles. That's what remains there. And now I'm coming into the centre of the copse, as it is, and there's a couple of big areas where no one's planted any trees. One of these was the temple to Mithridates, and the other one was a shrine to another god, but I don't know who that was. Now, there's a lot of trees in here, and there's a good reason for that. The trees were planted in 1760 by local landowner Charles Goring, much to the consternance of the local population, who went to complain to the Lord of the Manor. The Lord of the Manor told him to bugger off on account that it was him who planted all the trees. Allegedly, there were 365 beech trees planted in here originally. And also, according to local legend, the Lord, or his servants, came up every day to water the trees when he was first getting them established. I suspect the Lord's servants came up with the water, and he came up as well. Maybe carried the odd bottle, but I suspect the servants did the majority of the work. Charles Goring, I suspect, is where Goring village is probably named after his family as well, which is nearby. He planted all these trees really just because he thought it would improve what was already a local beauty mark. In 1987 they had a bit of a disaster when the great storm that really smashed the south of the country to pieces, and most of the country for that matter. The one that we were told would be a bit of a blow the night before, and the following morning half the country had been devastated by it. Well, that storm took down most of the trees in 87, and it wasn't until the 90s that they got replanted again. So most of these trees are only about 30 years old. They're not very big. There's one older guy just here. He's probably a couple of maybe 100 years old or so, a couple of 100 years. The other thing about there being temples here is that it ties in nicely with the next bit of weirdness established here. In the past, last century, Aleister Crowley, the great beast, renowned occultist and Satanist, apparently came up here with a mate of his, and they got up to some rituals of some form. And I know in the mid-70s they also found a pentagram in a circle had been marked out up in the centre of here, in flintstones, and they suspect that there were some more occultisms going on then. There were a couple of occult groups said to meet around here and practicing witchcraft of one form or another. What kind, whether that was white witchcraft, black witchcraft, no idea. Or kids messing about. I'll leave that to you to decide. And a bit of weirdness. Don't know if you can hear that blackbird in the background. That is the first time I've ever heard any kind of, in 20 odd years of coming up here, that is the first time I've ever heard any bird song at all up here. And I don't know anyone else who's ever heard any either. So that's a bit odd. There's a weird vibe to the place. There's always been a bit of a strange vibe, maybe it's because of the stories, but apparently some horses react to it. A tendency to rear up and get spooked. Some dogs do. None of my dogs have ever reacted strangely. They've all loved it up here. And there's been UFOs spotted, and apparently also there's been weird lights and that kind of thing seen up here, though I suspect certain practitioners who come up here have also taken a bit of acid, and they're likely to see all sorts of bloody shit up here one way or the other. So I'm walking around again just to add one last few bits of salient information about the place. If you walked 7 times around the perimeter of the old fort, around the ring of it, in an anti-clockwise manner, the devil would appear and offer you a basin of soup, which is something to do with the old Celtic uses of this place, was to do with the soups, or maybe that was something to do. There was always a lot of old Celtic myth and legend about old cauldrons being able to feed people, so maybe it's tied in with that. So 7 times anti-clockwise around here and the devil would appear and offer you a basin of soup. Now, should you decide to carry on walking round, now if you walked around here 9 times, you would see a ghostly lady appear, and I don't know what the connection is there or what that would be about. However, if you go around here 12 times anti-clockwise, apparently you'd come across a Saxon warrior or a Saxon lord who was looking for his hoard. That's hoard with a D. Now, on top of that, according to local myth as well, there are supposed to be 365 trees in here. However, apparently it's also impossible to count the number of trees that are actually here, and should you manage to count all the trees that are here, then Caesar's legion would march by in a ghostly horde. However, as we've established, trees planted in 1760, Romans coming past it AD 200, I think, when Claudius invades England. Was it Claudius? Begins with a C. So I don't think really that there's a connection there. Not when you consider there's almost 1500 years between the two events. Come on, boo. So that is Chanctonbury Ring. There are more tales and bits and pieces about it that I haven't uncovered yet, no doubt. And if I get enough to make another video, I will do a follow-up and come up here on a much clearer day. Gotta be honest, I've already tried to film this twice. Last week we had 2 perfect days for it, and each time, due to being a near elderly chap with no idea of technology, obviously using a camera that only involves one bloody button was too much for me, and I screwed it up both times I came up here. So hopefully I won't have done this time, but you never know. Right, Trouble? Could not give a toss. You ridiculous creature. As you can see down through that valley there, on a clear day again, you can see right to the sea, but obviously not today. So just thought I'd show you this before we go. This used to be one of the best swing sites in Sussex in my book. Look at this beauty. And a big old beech tree. Look at the root pattern on that. Yeah, you used to be able to swing on the second Y up there. There's a rope tied around the tree which you won't be able to make out because of the limitations of my camera. But yeah, that used to swing out right over this open bit, straight back up there again. But the main reason I wanted to show it to you was just the root structure underneath it. I think that's just absolutely incredible. Beautiful sight, absolutely beautiful, but quite spooky as well. Final thing, if the pentagram up on the ring was the work of the occultists, I think those notorious St. Valentinists have been down here. God help us. So yeah, that was Chanctonbury. Thanks for joining us on our walk. Thanks for watching me struggle to make it through however long this video was without dropping the F-bomb, but I've managed it, and that's the second one now. So my dear old mum will be proud. Last thing, as we're walking down this path, see how it's sort of gone down through the chalk. See these little cliffs, as it were. So It shows how long this path has been being walked for. I would say they've been walking up and down here for thousands and thousands of years. Incredible, isn't it?